Welcome, all my relations. I am so happy that you are here with us today on Four Sacred Gifts podcast. I'm grandmother Dr. Anita Sanchez. I'm Nawa, Aztec, and Toltec. And I'm here in the beautiful foothills of Colorado, where the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute, it's the unceded territories of theirs, and there are many other tribes. And I want people to always know they're still here. That's the miracle. Even with attempts at genocide, we are all still here, which just talks about how powerful Mother Earth and the universe is, and we are in being here. So I want to first start just with acknowledging our ancestors that are here, and those of you listening and watching, yours as well. And when I say ancestors, when we invoke them, it's not just a thing. It is with intention that they are here supporting us. And by that, not only two-legged human beings, but also all the elements, the water, the earth, the fire, the air, these trees, the animals, the insect, everything. And so I'm just really delighted to be here with you all. And today I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. And she is Stephanie Trager. And I met her a handful of years ago because we're both part of another group called 1,000 Suns. And when I met her, I was like, okay, you know how you know that? You have that feeling, your heart expands, you just go, okay, I may be on Zoom, but I feel like I can reach across and just touch you, and that our hearts are connected. But let me tell you a little bit, Stephanie, and then why she's here. Okay, so Stephanie Trager is an earth keeper, medicine woman, and the voice for the ancient trees. She's a transformational coach with 30 years of multidisciplinary experience weaving ancient intelligence, conscious governance, ethics and innovation, and modalities to unlock our future human potential. Her work with visionary leaders leverages a vast portfolio of solutions, including emotional intelligence, personal mastery, and evolved leadership, and systems-level frameworks and life-giving designs, integrating the left brain strategy, neuroscience, NLP, positive psychology, with hypnotherapy, shamanism, and laser coaching. So now you can see why I said what I did at the beginning. This is incredible. She's been in the front lines of environmental justice, human rights, and forest conservation and practicing law, and advising multinational companies on governance and sustainability. She was co-founder of one of the first corporate responsibility law firms in the U.S., helped preserve the last unprotected ancient redwood stands in California, worked on Holocaust reparations initiatives, and co-created the first trial monitoring committee in the U.S. to thwart judicial corruption. Stephanie was chair of the American Bar Association's Environmental Justice Committee in the U.S. to thwart judicial corruption, and author works on human rights to a clean environment. Sorry about that.
Okay, we can get that out.
Stephanie serves on the board of Dream Change, and that's important for our conversation today. Dream Change is an NGO helping rematriate indigenous lands for the Kogi of Colombia and the Maya of Guatemala, and a sacred counsel and legal advisor on issues involving the rights of nature, planetary rights, ethics and innovation, and governance. She's currently working and serves to the formation of an Earth School in collaboration with Tairona peoples in the Sierra Nevada, Colombia. Her applied research centers in conscious governance, an integrative model incorporating rights of nature, future generations, planetary rights, and interdimensional ethics, and it is shared in a forthcoming book, Rise of the Conscious Futurists. And I will put on the writing and below when you come to the site how to get a hold of Stephanie and her podcast that she has called Catalyst Talks. But you'll have stephanietrager.com. And we'll be sure to put in here the change, the group that also is helping to raise the funds to rematriate the indigenous lands of the Kogi. So with that, there's so much more. And And that's the good news. And the other thing is that those of you who are watching and listening, know that the purpose of the Four Sacred Gifts podcast is to amplify the voices of Indigenous leaders, young and older, all over the world. That's the commitment. We move constantly all over because so much is unfolding, and we want you to be here with an open heart and listening with the softest part of your ears. And we don't come up with questions ahead of time for people. What I do have an expectation of people who watch and listen. And so with that, my hope is that you will fall in love with whoever is speaking, because they are doing so much, and who they be and what they do on behalf of all of us is extraordinary. Stephanie is no exception. She is non-native, so she does not belong to an Indigenous tribe, as we know Indigenous in this day. However, she has had a long relationship with Indigenous people, and today's program is talking about the Kogi of Colombia. And the Kogi are just powerful. Indigenous groups all over the world know that Kogi have a special. We all have a relationship with nature, the universe. However, the processes and practices they go through to really have that as almost a cellular level. And I'll let her talk more about how Kogi come to be the Kogi and the mamos and things. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. And thank you, mamos, who all speak Spanish and can't speak English, and that you have supported Stephanie to be here, and you have brought your words for her to share. So thank you for being here, Stephanie. We're really excited to have you here.
Oh my gosh, Anita, thank you. And I would love to share the podcast that when you were a guest on Catalyst Talks podcast, and we were talking about. I actually asked your thoughts about how non-identified Indigenous people, when we refer to ourselves as, we're all Indigenous, and we hear this.
You got it.
Right? We're all Indigenous to Earth. And you made such a beautiful distinction. It's
yes.
Like yes, and how do we the keepers of,
and that's so
the
important.
Front line. Yeah.
So important, because one of the things that makes Indigenous people who they are is knowing that everything's interconnected. But we're not the only ones that know that. And anthropologically, we are all Indigenous, because going back. The difference is, because I don't want anybody to get sideswiped by somebody saying, what are you saying, calling you? Today, Indigenous means that that connection to your tribe, to your nation, has over many years, if not millennia, the information has been passed on and has continued to be living. And so that's distinction. But I so agree, and thank you for saying that, because that's why I welcome everyone everywhere. And you as a sister, it doesn't make sense to me to say, no, you're a sister, but you can't be like, no, you're all my relatives, and I really am grateful for that. So before we get into what the Kogi specifically want us to know, which will be most of this podcast, I want people to know a little more about you besides the bio. Just something about how you grew up, or just how you got to be the person you are who is here today. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go into the other honor of having you speak on behalf of the Kogi, the Mamos.
Thank you. So honored. Anita, thank you. I live in New Jersey right now, on the land of the Indigenous land of the Ramapola Nape. And this land is always, the ancestors are all, in fact, a deer is, I've never seen this, a deer is right outside my window. Right?
It's like, fine.
Remember, they're always here communicating, and we've had to do some work to cohere together on the land. Yeah, and I grew up in New York, in this area. I went to Ramapo High School, and I never knew that Ramapo High School the actual mascot was like the Lenape animal. So it was, I never knew until I moved to California. and remembered. And what happened was, so when I grew up, when I was a baby, I actually had a near-death experience, or I would say a death experience. And I always knew this wasn't it. And I was always communicating with the land, and always knew. I grew up in like a kind of in Jewish, my family is from Eastern Europe, and a lot of the Holocaust was my youth, growing up with that memory and trauma from my parents and grandparents. And so, and it just in my family. And so that is where I grew up, right outside of New York City. And when I finished college, I was like, I got to go find the truth, because this is not it. And I moved to California. And when I drove out west, and I had the privilege to do that, and I saw I landed in a spot where I walked into this ancient grove, and I was by my heard the trees say, "We need your help." I was like, huh? I need your help. Like, I don't know. And I was listening. It felt the most life truth I've ever felt in my entire life. And when I pulled out of the parking lot, there was about 19. This was in the 1990s. I saw a logging truck for the first time in my life, like with one big chunk of this one tree. And it was, and I followed it, and I saw around the bend the clear cuts, and I saw. And then later learned that there was actually a name for what they call the tree museum along the side of the road. And so I heard the call of those trees and followed it, and spent the next, I guess the next 7 years were living there in the woods, building tree sits, protecting the trees, being a tree sitter, and doing frontline activism there. A friend of mine was killed by a logger, and that's how I went into law and became a lawyer, because that's a whole long story. But I'll say that my experience there was, we were always in solidarity with the native, the local people. And it was the Yurok tribe and the Shoshone. Like, we were working with the tribes there. And so I remember being 19 years old and being invited into a prayer meeting. And it wasn't like a prayer meeting for our transformation. It was a prayer for the forest and a prayer for the healing of the forest. And that changed. That was. I still remember every single second of that, and it's just guided me. It was not comfortable at all, but it was an assignment, and that just kept leading me. And so from there, had we popped around and were doing different kind of actions and support with the indigenous folks, like the Navajo, were defending their land from spent plutonium rods in Ward Valley, in the sacred Ward Valley in the Arizona, like the Four Corners. So we plopped ourselves there and set up, how can we support? And so we would kind of go around to these different places, and the Hopi Dene were defending against Peabody coal back then, and so how can we serve? And we were like tending the sheep while they were doing what they had to do to protect the land. And so, yeah, that was kind of like the early days of the journey. And so I've always been like, who are the, like, on that learning journey. And in the learning journey also, had the learnings of like appropriation and like all the things, right, that we learn on this path, and the dynamics, and then how do we move beyond that right now where we are. I think we needed to go through a lot of that, the learning on how to be in this a relationship of integrity and honoring and respect for the keepers and the journey and the trauma that indigenous people have endured, right? To remind, and now we're here, like, oh, now we remember, So, in deep gratitude for that transmission. And I feel like we're in this time now where we get to move beyond even the indigenous wisdom into the ancient intelligence of like ancient civilizations that were here before, right? And like, what is just all the intelligence that's available to us, because we need to like band together to move this thing forward. And
Yes.
yeah, and so that's
Definitely. Thank you. So, again, now I know why at a cellular level, I never heard about some of your beginnings. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So let's bring this to, how did you get involved with the Kogi and the other tribes in Colombia?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll start off with, I remember first coming across your work and seeing in about 2018, I think it was, and I saw that John Perkins wrote the intro, the forward to your book. I don't know how I remember that right now, and because he is the founder of Dream Change, and So I met him in 2018, and I said, John, I need to talk to you. He said, well, then come on a trip with me. And so he's like, come to Colombia. That's the next trip. And so I went with him to Colombia in 2018. And that was when um, I that journey was to go and journey with the Kogi. And wow, that changed my life in so many ways. And John and I became very close. And I joined the board of Dream Change. And what I learned about his journey. So he had been co-facilitating these journeys with another guide, Daniel Cooperman.
Yeah, I know Daniel. Yeah,
And they were leading trips for many years. And Daniel actually, he is for many years. He's an Ecuadorian man who's for his whole life has just been about really cultivating deep relationships with the indigenous people, where he brings people on sacred journeys. And for many decades before, like, a lot of people were doing this. And so it was the journey with John was with him and Danielle. And Danielle had told me at that time on that trip, he said that he has spent many years going there to build that trust with the Kogi in order to be able to bring outside people. And at that time, there was the film, the Aluna film was out from like the 80s, but still very few people, just only 7 years ago, very few people were really like going there. And they were still very closed off, the Kogi. And I'll just speak from my relationship with the Kogi, because now we're really creating a more of a unified relationship with the Arhuaco, the Wiwa, and Kokonkwamo, and they're working together more with the outside world to say, okay, this is a joint effort, right? And it's been cool to witness that. And so Danielle said that it took many years to build that trust. And we were the first group that they let actually come and sleep in the village.
that's good.
And what I learned was that every time people would go there, they would go on to do certain things, and we would learn about how they even before you entered their village, we would have to, and I would just say, like, I have, in everything we share today, I have no authority on any of the matters, right? Like, I'm here to can transmit what I know, how I know, and so how I say it. If it's not like the perfectest, I want to just be mindful. Like, I claim no authority, right? I'm just really, I have to say, I'm humbled to the fact that I don't know what I don't know around a lot of most of what we're going to talk about today, but the little bit that I know, I hope can transmit what is needed right now. So we slept in their village before we were allowed to go in the village. It was like hours and hours of pagamentos and ceremonies, making payments to earth, and they were showing us their ceremonies in order to purify our thoughts, because in order to enter their village, you must purify your thoughts. And they would be like, they're reading us to make sure we were ready. No impure thoughts in here in the village, which it was so subtle and so powerful, that really stuck with me. And so, that forged the beginning of our relationship. Yeah.
That's really great. That to me reminds me just of going into the Amazon. That's how I know John. For 10 years, we're on the Pachamama Alliance board together. And Danielle was the first guide I had in Ecuador to learn how to then be a guide to other people coming in. But what I wanted to get to is that purifying thoughts, there are different ways we say that in tribes around the world. For me, what it is to be good medicine. And we could not go into villages unless we were clean. We were good medicine. And good medicine is anyone or anything that puts into alignment the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. Bad medicine is anyone or anything that takes the physical, spiritual, emotional, and physical out of alignment. And that time that you spent, I could really relate to that, because I had to do. We did the same sort of thing. Not had to. We got to. It was a gift to be able to do that, and then to be able to eventually really understand that we are family. Not just words, but really understand that. And so it's really beautiful. So, yeah. So this is great, because now we know a little bit how you got there, how this relationship, because as you said, and I want to make sure that people, I'm sure they heard you, is that for the longest time, the Kogi remained unseen by most people. totally unseen. And still, it's a big truck to come back down and to go into the rest of the world. And they do that, and it's not any minor thing. There's a lot that has to go into doing that. And so for them to ask you, to invite you to come and speak as best you can their words and show their video and let people know what's happening, because it's very important. I honor you as a messenger, and there's no other way to say that, because they obviously respect and honor you, or they wouldn't have you do this. So thank you. And so with that, let's go ahead and start getting into more of the specifics of then what is happening with the Kogi and us in the world. I mean, it's all connected.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much I could do. So one of the things I wanted to say was when I was there in 2018, there was a sum of money that was brought, and there was going to be a pilgrimage right after actually our journey, and that pilgrimage was from the people who were there the year before who raised money, and that they were coming back to do a pilgrimage with pagamentos and deliver money that was raised so that they could buy land. They actually bought like 25 land for 25 families to come down from the mountains. So the rough story is that the 4,000 years ago, when the Spanish came, the tribes went high up into the mountains to hide, and they were not colonized. They maintained their lifestyles, their tradition, their everything up in those mountains that were not very hospitable. And so after things became safe, and as things were in that region were a little bit more safe, they started coming down the mountain, but all this land was now private property. And so after the drugs, after things like kind of cooled down, it's pretty intense right now actually, there began this kind of movement, like how do they repatriate their land? And so that was this one very small effort. There's a lot of organizations right now working to raise funds so that they can rematriate more of their land, large pieces, so weird to say, but large spaces that are like really important for the corridors. They're energetic corridors. And so I realized that was happening, and then our group also raised funds, and then one of the people in my group also, everyone was so inspired when we left that everyone was doing their own fundraisers and like contributing funds, and then for the next year those funds were given as well. And so this had been a theme, it's not a theme, a process that Dream Change was facilitating just as the nonprofit through the vehicle of Dream Change to raise the funds and for this like reciprocity to unfold. And so I was back there again in 2023, and this time we were there. I co-facilitated a group with Danielle Cooperman, and we were going on a pilgrimage. So them bringing us on the pilgrimage enabled us to go with them, and our going enabled them and a few families actually, and a few mamos to take us on this journey. And so we went to 9 of their different sacred sites around the Black Line, and the Black Line is this territory that spiritually has like is a protection, and it holds their sacred site. It's like it contains the heart of the world, and it contains there's the sacred sites within the heart of the world. And right now, actually, this last few months, that decree was annulled. And so they've been working very hard, the tribes, and this is a really big effort that I think that brought the tribes together. They're working with the government, and the president of Colombia is apparently said that they're reinstating the line, and so they've been working hard to like redraw this line. Anyway, so there's a lot going on there, and for anybody who wants to explore that, there's I can share some information for the show notes to follow up with that. So while that's happening, what did I say? So while that's been happening, we were there in 2023, and we were on this pilgrimage. It was very, very powerful. And one of the sacred sites they brought us to was Duanama. And Duanama was, we walked there, and it was like the first thing. I'll share from my perspective, and then we can go into like the words. From my perspective, as like I walked there. It was this giant stone. There's several stones and a lot of different carvings on the stones. There's this one massive stone, and we'll show a picture for, for all the visual listeners. But this stone has this carving in it, and it looks to me, before knowing anything about what this was, I'm like, this is a frequency stamp from some cosmic energy. And then I also saw the shape of this stone looks like an ancient animal that was like became solid, like 20. And I'm like, my sense was like 26,000 years ago. And I was like, okay, now what is this? And it kind of aligns, I was like, wow. And so it's fascinating. People who go there have the transmission from the stone of what it is. And I sense it's like, it's communicating with us in our own perception of what it means, right? But I'm excited for us to dive in and share through their words, the Kogi, and one of the Arawako leaders, we have some of his words. So when we were there, standing there, everyone was like, wow. And we felt it. And Mamo Alejandro said, we would really love to have this back. We need to have this back. It was Mamo Alejandro. He is one of the elder mamos of the Kogi, and Mamo Vicente, who is one of the elder mamos as well of the Kogi. And Mamo Vicente's community is like right next to, it's called Duanama, which is right next to Duanama. So Duanama is like the stones that sit there, and then there's a lot of land, and it's on private property right now. That's important to know. And where the stones sit is very close to the road, actually a public road. So it's like really important to protect this site right now. And when we were standing there, the way it was transmitted, I wasn't a fluent Spanish speaker, but it was transmitted that it's the brain of the earth. So my takeaway at that time was, and there's been so much more, many layers delivered since then, but it was the brain of the earth, and this connects to all of their sacred sites, connects to the cosmos, and connects to all of their sacred sites, and holds all of the information of Mother Earth, the codes and the instructions for Mother Earth and restoring Mother Earth. We're like, all right, we're going to help you. We got to sign up for this. So that's what happened next.
Some things are just gold, and there's even a thought about turning around and going away. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. And when you're ready, I don't know if you want to start with words or you want to start with a video. There's a 6-minute video. And again, for those of you listening and watching, we're not able in this to translate the Spanish. And so as best she can, Stephanie is going to be reading things, but we want, especially for those of you who can see visually, to see this site. And those of you who are listening, hopefully that you know that the invitation holds to come back so that you can see at minimum the video, so you can see where we're talking about. Because I think place it always really matters. And that place, or those places, they just go right in. They just go right in you like they did with you.
Yeah. So
I encourage you to see them.
We'll also share the link where people can watch the video after. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the video is beginning, and it says, in the Kogi tradition, they consider themselves the elder siblings, and the younger people, the people living in industrial society, are the younger siblings. And right now, the mamos want the younger siblings to know. So we're reading the captions on the video right now, and they are, this is the vision. The video is taking place at a place called Don Diego. It's also another sacred site where we were making pagamento. So they were not sitting at Duanama when we made this video. So it says here, the Mamo says that according to history, there are spiritual and cultural legends about all the sacred spaces and places in our world. And now we see the damage of contamination in all of these places. This is Mamo Alejandro speaking. There are forms of organization that allow the authority of the four people, the Kogi, Arawako, Wiwa, and Kunkwamo, to be strengthened as guardians of the Sierra, the heart of the world, and these places are the exumas. So previously, the elder mamos knew exactly where the sacred sites were, even if they didn't go to them. And the places now are the people are the authorities of these places. So previously, the elder mamos knew where the sacred sites were, and they knew where all the sites were, the places in the hills, the very sacred spots at the highest points in the mountains, and those along the seashore. It's talking about those on the black line. And they knew where the Duanama stones were without even visiting them. They communicated with these places spiritually. That is the places that the mamos understood one another. And now sometimes we mamos feel that we are being undermined or deceived, and this deception that we feel when we go to these sacred places these days, that it is already on private property. And from the beginning of time, it wasn't like this. They used to travel freely and know these places and make the payments, the pagamentos, that are tributes to Mother Earth. And when we protect and take care of the sacred site, we're protecting the world, we're protecting the sun, the moon, we're protecting the water and that Mother Earth gives us. And nature is important for us. Many of the younger siblings have asked why the mamos and women all have long hair. And for us, hair is nature. Or a Kogi, it's a calamity when we cut our hair. It's a violation of our original law. When we speak about Duanama stones, remember that we have been here, coming here for a long time. And in the past, the elder mamos made this pilgrimage just in spirit, and now we make it physically, walking and coming to be at the place. Why do we want it to be like this? To teach the young people to come here and do their spiritual studies. If we don't do this, we would be forgetting our ancestral wisdom and our very education. For this reason, we protect the sacred sites like Duanama. It is like these places are those sites where when we visit, we're taking care of the calamities made by the dams and the disasters that are happening to nature and Mother Earth. The duty of the mamos is hopefully to see that the younger brothers will stop all of this and stop touching all this. This is something very important. And these days, the mamos see in their spiritual studies that Mother Earth does not have much life left in her. She has only a short life left because we've taken everything from her. We've taken all of her blood, we've taken her bones, we've removed her heart and removed her liver. This place here you can see is connected to the Sierra Nevada peaks. And there are also the sacred places up there that are aligned with the sacred sites in other countries and in the ocean. And so sometimes we feel great pain seeing that we want to explain to our younger siblings so that they understand the value that the mamo sees of the earth. And a mamo who makes a spiritual increase says that most people, it's going very fast. Most people who see the earth see it very beautifully, but the mamo sees the sacred site and knows that this place is a place that is going to save life. So what will the Kogi do with the return of the Duanama stones? The sacred sites are the keys that preserve the natural relationships and repair the damage that has also been taken. For the mamo, the repatriation of the Duanama stone is going to be an accomplishment that hopefully will be attained. We have to have this part as our community because it is a sacred ancestral scripture. When we make a payment, a pagamento, a tribute at this site, we are healing, we are saving life. Our idea is that when we have this land in our hands, we will build a school for spiritual and cultural education for men and for women. Duanama is like a great book of information for ecological regeneration. And that is why it must be under the direct care or it is in danger, because it is in danger. And the mamos are the ones who have the original codes to access that information. There we will teach the young people. Our girls can also be sages and wisdom keepers. And for others who are interested in studying with the mama, we will continue teaching our wisdom. In the recent past, this was part of a tourist site. It is now again a sacred site, and there is more tranquility now because the mama has been able to teach the studies. This great book, the spiritual scriptures, are keys. So we will be very grateful for help. And we will be very happy to be back here at the Duanama Stones. And that is what the mamo says.
Thank you. Just take a couple of deep breaths, everyone, because I know that even those who are only listening can also feel the importance of this. And I'll take the guidance of the Kogi through you. You had were there things that you wanted to share specifically from parts of things, or
Yeah, so to give a little of context,
yes,
beyond just even those words, if you go to the website where that video is, there's a lot more there as well. But I mean, for those not familiar with the Sierra Nevada, the 4 tribes of the Sierra Nevada are the Kogi, the Arawaco, the Wiwa, and the Kankwamo. And these 4 tribes are the tribes of the Tairona people. So this is if you go to this area in Colombia, it's called the Sierra Nevada Mountain. The region is the Sierra Nevada. And this is where it's the highest mountain coastal range on the planet. So this the highest peak that is that close to the ocean. The Caribbean Sea is called, right? And so the Kogi know, and the tribes know, the Sierra Nevada as the great regulatory system for our entire planet. It's like the heart of the earth. If we look at the Amazon as the lungs of the earth, the Sierra Nevada, they consider the heart of the earth. And they believe that these sacred sites, they know that these sacred sites, let's say that the sacred sites need to be tended to, and unless they are, like, the systems of earth cannot be maintained. So sacred sites are the organs, they're let's say the nervous system, right? They're the brain of the earth, because they basically are maintaining the nervous system. And then all of this is what Mama Alejandra was saying about we're taking out the blood, we're taking her bones, which is the stones, all the gemstones that we're taking the stones, we're taking all the minerals, right? We're taking everything out of her. And that is where he's saying that she cannot sustain life. So in 2018, I remember Mama Alejandra said that there was 5 years left until Mother Earth will really start showing that what's going on. We hadn't even understood yet what climate change was. And he also said at that time, this is 2018, that in a year and a half, there's going to be something that plagues the earth and nothing will be the same after. What happened? COVID. Right? So this is just to say they are seers, they are knowers, they are so connected to multidimensional realms, and they're really tend to this. And so the message about in 2023 was that there's 15 years left before extinction, or extinction with human life as we know it, let's just say. And we know there's multiple ways to translate what that message means. And so the words of Mamo Alejandro said that the Duanama is where they study the black line, right? They just study this living network. I'm reading now some of his words from one of the consultas, the consultation that was made. So how all the decisions are made. And we in Dream Change is solely acting as a nonprofit in the U.S. to support and fundraising. And everything, all the decisions is they're happening in consultation with the mamos, and there's a lot of different energies. Let's just say that people like to romanticize working, the Indigenous relations, and it's like any human relations, right? We're all navigating ancestral trauma. We're all navigating the trauma to Mother Earth, and that exists in this process. What I'm seeing personally, and learning about myself too. Like, where does this stuff live in me? That this process has demanded purity. It will not work until purity. In fact, we started this fundraiser this is now my words. We've started this fundraiser in 2023. We came back, hit the ground running, raised like $25,000. And then we realized, wait, we have to pause, because we don't even know who the landowners are. Like, there's something not moving here. And we couldn't figure it out. And I went back in the end of that year of 2024 to go to speak to, or to go into the community where I studied, go into the community and speak to Mama Alejandro and Juan Neves, his son, who I've had a close relationship. Couldn't figure it out, and it's like, and finally, this is the year that things have become clear. We've more collaboration has unfolded with the Love Mother Earth Foundation and the governing body of the Kogi, the OGTs, and we learned that there are some tensions that best are not transmitted over the fields here, but that there are some tensions that need to be tended to so that there could even be standing to purchase this land. And so that's phase one. We're working on that. They're working on that. The Mamos are spiritually working on that, like a lot. Like since 2023, there have been a lot of their focus. And now with this whole Black Line decree being annulled is like that's front and center right now. So anyway, there's a lot of energetics moving here as well, as you know, and your listeners know. And so from my side, we're like, okay, what do we need to do that we can support with here in the Eagle Land? And that's what we're working with, that we're working closely with the tribes. And so, so coming back to what Mama Alejandro said in the consultation recently, where he said, okay, Dream Change, he approved that this can move ahead now. It's time to open the fundraiser again. And he said that this is where they study the Black Line, the living network of sacred sites that covers the entire body of Mother Earth. All the guidelines at a global level are contained here. Duanama is a living intelligence. It is a system and place of ancient stone formations that we see as this great knowledge book, and it's the brain of the earth. It is encoded with the memory of the water, the forest, the flora, the fauna, the sun, the light, time, and life itself. It's multidimensional, multidirectional, and all other things in between. And they say that when they recover this land, we the world of foundations and granting funding, right, wants to know, what are you going to do with the land, right? And so they're very clear that this is going to be an earth school, a wisdom school to transmit their wisdom and their tradition to their children and men and women, and then to the rest of the world who's interested in coming. Or I should say that this is on Kogi territory. Duanama is sitting in Kogi territory, and it's in the heart of the world, which is the territory of the Tairona people, the 4 tribes. So they're very clear that this is going to be a place for the 4 tribes to do the work, to restore nature, to restore the codes of Mother Earth. And what they were also very clear about is like, well, we said, what's your 1,000-year vision? Or what's your 100-year vision? Or what's your 10-year vision? They said, Duanama will give that to us when we're there. So this is their like, you want to have this vision and this linear process, but they said that the answer is that we need to recover this place, and that is where we will get the step-by-step information about what we must do. That there is no ego involved. It's not what we want to do. She will tell us what to do. And that keeps me in check sometimes when I'm like, well, we need to know this, and this, right? The route will be given to us there at Duanama with the codes held by the 4 tribes. That is the word of the Mamo.
It's beautiful. As you reading that, I was there listening on Zoom to their words.
Yeah.
And as you said, it was like, oh, I know, it stayed in me. So I hope that that is attaching to where it is in you, your heart or your spirit, wherever, to understand how important this is. And what I find extraordinary in many of the sites all over the world, there is a connection, but I've not heard of one site where it's connecting everything. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a different, and I know that around the world, Indigenous people are listening, because the Mamos have reached out years ago and said, we need to do simultaneous ceremony. We need to be, and invite so-called non-native people. They need to be there, because again, it's understanding this is about all of us. It's about all of our lives and the lives of all of our relations. And so I feel like it's an invitation to be a good medicine, to be a life force, a positive life force. And when you speak about how humble they are, and as I've heard them, never in person, but in meetings and Zoom and things, is that it's so humble because it is. It reminds me of some other tribes there, but when they speak, it's not even like the place is really separate from them.
Yeah.
They know it's all one body.
Yeah.
And I just think, what if we could even have a little of that around the world
Yeah.
beyond the indigenous people? That would be extraordinary. And I think now people are understanding more as they hear things like 80% of the most biodiverse lands left on Earth are lands that indigenous people live on. And so let that sink in. If you haven't heard that, or if you've heard it, let it sink in further. 80% of the most biodiverse lands left on Earth are lands that indigenous people are on. And that's no coincidence. That speaks to how the relationship, the living together, the respecting, the honoring, that it's not only a thing, it's not just an object, it's a spirit, it's a being, it's a part of life itself. And to not have that separation. So I'm really delighted that you're part of this, and that the change, is it new change or be change? We'll make sure to put that
Dream change.
Dream change. I should know that. Let's dream change.
Yeah, and I would love to share, what my connection now, because I feel very connected. In fact, I have this giant boulder on the land where I steward here, and it looks like I know it's connected there. And so, I do believe that sacred sites are all connected, right? And we know that, everything is connected and communicating. I often, since my experience at Duanama, I often visualize, I was recently in Egypt as well. And I'm like, I see it, like tens of thousands of years ago, when all of these sites were literally talking to each other, and that intelligence was like emitting energy and, free energy without mining the earth. Like the advanced civilizations were really working with this technology, and we are human body tech as technology. And so when we hear the mamos talk about reactivating these sites, it's like, are we ready for that? Like, everything that we do, even in the rematriation of the sites, it's like, why hasn't it happened in 3 years? It's like everything is the opportunity for all of us to come into that frequency or activation. Like, where do I need to clean up my words and remember and more deeply connect to that intelligence, so that to be a vessel for that activation. And one of the things I would love to share is the words of Bunkwani Maku, who is a leader of the Arawako, who was on the call with us, and that transmission he shared about Duanama the other day was like, oh yeah, when it's so easy even to be speaking multidimensionally in such a linear way, and his words are so multidimensional, you remember. So I have the translation of what he said in English, if I could read that.
Yes, please do.
So Bunkwani Maku was an Arawako leader, and he was speaking about, from his perspective, he was actually speaking from a place called Vida Vida, which is the land that's next to where Duanama is. And so that's for context. And he said, the Wirinka Mountain Attunement Center. That is what Duanama is for them. It's the Wirinka Mountain Attunement Center. And he's speaking of dimensions and directions here. He says it is the cardinal axis of energetic science and ancestral wisdom. Silence is the foundation that activates the prudent sound of positive vertical line. From this sacred space of pagamento and connection at Vida Vida, which is next to Duanama, the Duanama stones receive the flow of cosmic light and project it into a perfect cross towards the 4 cardinal directions to shield the foundation of nature and maintain the order of the world. In the east, The East is the origin. And so one pause here. I was in a consultation with the Mamos, an Arawako community, and the Mamos, and they speak very much of fire, that the word is fire. The word is fire. So there's good fire, there's not good fire, there's and everything is in the sort of the context of fire, and in how they're speaking of nature. And so I'll return now to his explanation. So in the East, it's the origin, and it is the fire of light, the sun and the stars. And with Duanama, Mount Warinka at the center. So the East is the fire of light. The South, the West is the memory, the fire of water, oceans and waves. The North is the breath, fire of air, and South is the support, the fire of earth. And in detail, he goes into detail to say the East, the fire of light, is the origin of thought. The cosmic connection here is towards the sun, where the origin of thought is born. It is the channel through which Mount Warinka receives its dynamic transit and the light of the stars from the 9 dimensions. Of the wisdom of the East is that it ignites the spark of our white marrow and activates the journey of restoration, reminding humanity that life is borrowed from the one being and must be returned in gratitude. The North, the fire of air, the breath of the fathers. So the cosmic connection of the north of Duanama, is towards the high summits of the heart of the world, the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, a World Heritage Site. The wisdom contained in the north is it connects Duanama with the sacred wind. It's the direction that guides the flight of the migratory birds from different continents, who carry and transmit planetary information through the wind currents, cleansing the human mind of dark intention. From the west, the fire of water, liquid memory, and the sea. The cosmic connection of the west towards where the sun sets and the great primordial waters rest. It's the direct connection with the wind of the wave and the flow of the sea. The wisdom of the West, it attunes the 36 rivers to the cosmic pulse. Water acts as the mirror that preserves the memory of creation, bringing the purity needed to cleanse thought and halt the destruction of the horizontal line. The horizontal line, yeah. South, the fire of the earth, the foundation of the natural base. The cosmic connection of the South is towards the firm foundation of the soil and the roots of all the mountains of the earth that are spiritually connected to Warinka, Duanama. And the wisdom of the South is the physical anchoring of the positive vertical line that gives stability to the territory of this land and allows every grain of sand and invisible being to fulfill its role in protecting and safeguarding life for the future. And then there is the seal of the cardinal mandate, the closing, the seal of the mandal cardinate at the center of Mount Warinka, upon the altar of the Duanama stone. It is guarded the sacred silence of the law of origin. And from this point of attunement, the Nikuma frequency expands to the north, the south, the east, and the west. One single unified energy sweeps away darkness, shields our land, and guarantees the continuity of the Green Nation in harmony with the owners of life. Yes to the Green Nation, life of humanity, in peace with nature, in the heart of the world that beats for all.
Oh.
And so it is.
Yeah. It's like, I just want to smile and cry and just, it's so beautiful. Absolutely. And throughout, I just thank you so much for bringing their words and bringing your spirit here to us. And it makes me think about, I read a lot, I listen to lots of different, I'm always learning, I love learning. And what I feel is somewhat different here is that I hear and even see some talking about unity, people, and oneness. But this is living unity and oneness. It's not just talking about it.
Mm.
And I imagine what the world will be if we can move our hearts there and then inform our mind, because we have too much stuff going on that makes, I'll speak for myself, that not always can trust what's going on in the mind. I want it. I want the mind. We need it. We die. But it's to inform from your heart and spirit, and then living that oneness and unity. And boy, we can definitely use that unity and oneness now. So I want you to, I know we're almost out of time, if there's any other words you want to leave us, either from them or from yourself, to do that. And I think usually I ask guests, what is the dream? I feel like you brought us the dream. The dream is for people to hear this with their hearts, and then to reach out, to reach into themselves and give forward what they can in reciprocity. It can be prayers. It could be financial resources. It could be connections. Here's someone else you ought to talk to. And that is just so critical, especially this time. And we have, in this linear world of time right now, I've thought it's more circular, but nonetheless, in this period of time, to actually gain back this land, it's not like we have years and years to do that. Yeah. We have a very short window to gain that back before it goes into private ownership. And then you don't know whether it's housing, hotels, what is going to happen there. It's a good time for all of us to open our hearts even further, and our ears, and just see what's calling forth to help. So do you have any other last words or anything that you want to say before we close today?
Yeah, thank you. You just said so much. I do think that, so what in the pilgrimages and the journeys I've been on with, and able to see many of the sacred sites, the places where they go and make pagamentos that have, and they're for the world. These sites have hotels, and they do have the lagoons are drying. Like these sacred sites are, they're and there's a lot of really a big intensity happening in the Sierra Nevada right now. And so this land, there is a window, as you said, and it is a small window for phase one. So there's, some logistics. There's 3 phases we're looking at here in terms of fundraising. We definitely need money. Let's use the M word. We need some money here, and not that much to start. Like we need about $15,000 right now. So we're working to get to phase 1 is secure, and being mindful. We want to really protect the energetics around this as well. So may this be cast on the airwaves, and only all the right ears only hear. And so, in that sense, phase 1 is securing priority to make sure it stays somewhere in the right hands, whether or not whoever it is. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is purchasing the land. We'll figure out more on what that actually looks like, and it's a big area. And phase 3 is building the school and building and helping facilitating the reclamation. And so phase 1 is most important, and this will be out there on the airwaves for a long time. And right now it's May 2026, and so we might be in phase 3 when you hear this. Please reach out. Dreamchange.org is the organization. Will give you the link to the page where you can, for anyone who feels like just making an offering. It could be very small, it could be very big, whatever feels right for anybody listening. There is an opportunity to do that on the Dream Change website, and we'll share the link in the show notes. And if you have any collaborators, or you want to get in touch, or you want to connect with the Kogi, with the tribes, and be part of the conversation or dialogue, or you can also reach out through the show notes, and to you as well, Anita, right? Because we're connected through that portal. And yes, lastly, I would just say, all the support is important right now. And the message from the Mamos, the message from the land, the message from is also that there's where the land is going to go. So if people are listening, they're like, yeah, but if it's going to a nonprofit in the U.S., like, how does that all work? There's other ways, like if you're internationally and you're listening to this, and donating in the U.S. doesn't give the tax benefit or whatever, and you want to somehow participate, there's ways you can donate directly to the governing body of the Kogi the OGT, the organization that governs the Kogi, and then there's where the money is going to go, who or what entity is going to purchase this. It is the resguardo. There's a reserve. It's the Kogi Arhuaco Malayo. This is a reserve, and so that is that's where the title will be. This is
good to know.
Fully Indigenous led movement.
Yes. That's good to know. And people do like, is it going to one person? No, this is community, collective. This is unity that we're talking about in the fullest sense. And so we will make sure to have all those links at the bottom, people who go to the site. But also, if you could say one more time, the Dream Change one. And
dreamchange.org. And you can do /Kogi, KOGI-land. There's also a tab on the main site, dreamchange.org /KOGI-land.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. And I could feel it. I could feel you listening with the softest part of your ears and expanding heart. So be well, all my precious relations. Until next time.
Thank you.